You've received the wisdom of the two fingers, have you not? Then I bid you welcome, as a true member of the Roundtable.
So we're down south, like really far south, Weeping Peninsula.
Yeah,
This is
Northern
like
Ireland.
You can't just say everything's Northern Ireland.
Anywhere rainy.
Anywhere rainy and
Rainy
kind of miserable,
Ireland, yeah.
This is kind of weird area. It's like an optional area.
Is it?
Well, yeah, there's loads of this game, to be fair.
Yeah, to be
it's
fair,
strictly
yeah.
optional. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of an area that people kind of stumble across. Some people don't find it.
Yeah.
And it's almost like an extended tutorial in lots of ways.
Yeah.
Because I think it's a place that you can go level up and there's things to do there. But like,
Yeah.
it's not on the critical path at all.
Actually, yeah, now you say it, I do
Because
actually
it's
remember
also-
when we were first talking about it, you were like, it is an area that maybe people find out about later on, but you were like, it makes so much more sense to do it in the way that we've done it rather than go off and then come back, because then you'd be over leveled for that area.
It would
like,
just be such a breeze.
just walk through it, yeah.
But we've seen like there's some pretty wild stuff down there.
Yeah, and for some NPCs, it feels weird to have not met them at the point we did. You know, if you go further into the game.
Well, we
Seems
don't know
kinda
how you talk about Edgar.
Yeah.
Your man
Yeah.
Edgar. You're
My
putting
main boy.
you're putting a lot of like emphasis on Edgar being a big thing. You're going
Is he
all,
not?
Well, I'm not saying.
I hope
He's going, of all the like, he's like the most bored. He's just a bloke, and like you've gone all in on Edgar, Castellan Edgar. So I was speaking to Joe Screbs at the weekend about your uncanny ability to just be an amazing Souls player. And he used an example.
Short conversation, was it?
He used it, he couldn't stay for long.
Yeah.
There was this like the thing he used as an example was from this episode,
Right, yeah.
where we come across the Erd-Tree avatar, and you just fucking nail it.
Yeah.
I remember that, yeah. That was, I think it was like the only boss. Well, a boss. Tough.
Field boss.
Yeah,
It's
field
a boss.
boss.
He's got a health bar.
Yeah.
He moves like 30 other Dark Souls characters we fought before. I know that body type and like the big goosh, the swings.
The
like,
goosh.
Yeah.
The goosh. Once you've dodged a goosh or two, you know, you can do it for
You don't forget that. You don't forget the goose.
You don't.
Like-
That's what you said. That's what you called
yeah.
it between Christmas and New Year. You call
Yeah.
it the goosh. So
The goosh of the
this
year.
This is the lad, and it's so funny that you said this. Like like when you fought a big lad, you fought him before, because I think I say in the episode, it's a reused asset.
Yeah, it is,
Yes.
yeah.
So this is from a YouTube channel called Bonfire of EN, and if you don't follow this channel, you should go subscribe. They just put together lots of really good close-ups of like smaller details in these
Right,
games.
yeah.
So I've taken this from their channel.
This is wicked.
So this is a close-up model of the Erd-Tree avatar.
Okay.
And it's kind of interesting. Like if you actually look at it a bit closely, it is an upside-down tree.
Oh, yeah.
So the branches around the back and like the skirt of it, and then its head is the roots. Now,
Yeah.
I'm not going to delve into what these are here.
Okay.
We'll do that in the main show when it becomes appropriate. But it's kind of interesting just to have a little smaller examination of the character model.
Good calves.
I don't even think I
Good
knew it
calves
was a
on it.
tree.
It's
I'll be
well,
honest
it's
with
the Erd-Tree avatar. So the
Yeah.
avatar of the Erd-Tree.
What's going on here?
Well, it's the Erd-Tree.
Yeah.
Can you see the tree and the roots going deeper into the ground?
Wow.
Like the amount of like small detail is like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Now here he's walking, and you said like, oh yeah, it reminds me of someone I fought him before.
Yeah, look at that.
So this is
I
a
knew
comparison of like the two character models running side by side.
It's the legs and
Yeah.
that thick ass booty as well. You look at that.
So it's obviously got the same wireframe
yes.
across both of them.
Wow.
So obviously, maybe this is going to be a recurring feature on Roundtable Hold of lazy Miyazaki watch.
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
But like, I
Fucking
think
nailed him.
we've talked about this in podcasts and stuff. Like,
Yeah.
there's obviously a good reason to do this
100%.
because you don't have to build that entirely from scratch.
Well, because that we were talking about this
Some
recently.
people
weren't
would be
we?
really shitty about
Okay,
that.
this
Yeah.
is nuts though. The amount, it's like the same kind of attack.
And there are some different.
right.
He
now it's actually shyer.
yeah, he started off and he liked it. Now he's just like, this is fucking bullshit.
That's
If I did this
crazy.
with my homework,
Yeah.
That's
To be
called
fair,
plagiarism.
I feel terrible when someone was like, Gav's told that story before. You're like, well, I've been doing podcasts and videos and stuff for years. And like,
if you want a Let's Play that is the size of our Let's Play, we need to reuse assets.
someone had go me the other day because I repeated a story that I told on regular features. So it wasn't even a story that I told on RKG. It was just
To be
like,
fair, that was me.
yeah.
I was just like,
Yeah.
don't you come around with that shit over here. But yeah, what do you think of this? Do you think this is cool?
cool.
Or do you
It-
think it's like, does it bother you at all?
It doesn't, for the reason that I don't think. I think in a bad company, which I don't even know if this exists, it's used for nefarious purposes where the fact is like, we're just going to fucking reuse shite. Whereas I feel like From are the type of company that gone, right, the time that we would have spent having to animate or come up with this whole other thing, we're not just going down to O'Neill's for Guinness and Pie Night. It's like we're going to funnel that time into something else. And I do generally believe
that is what they are doing. It's like if you want us to make a game of this scale and scope, and have the same like detail, we need to like save us some time.
It's only
Would you use that and the door animation?
Yeah.
Do that.
It's only extra funny that I didn't really know that like how closely it was linked to the Asylum Demon, but I did mention like multiple times. I was like, I feel like I know these attacks. I can do this boss.
Well, I think off camera you kept referring to the thick booty.
I did.
Demon booty is
times.
what you.
I fought off a few thick booties in my lifetime. I got really hands on with it.
Excuse me.
So I was.
Someone knows this is Patreon lot content.
At least the assets they were using are their own assets. It's like assets. Yeah.
Juicy assets.
Juicy assets.
Juicy demon assets.
It's not big fat natural assets. It's not like. It's not just like there's a noise that you hear all the time.
No,
you know what I mean? Like at least like the stuff they were using is stuff that they made.
And the really cynical, horrible people on Reddit would go, "Oh, you're pandering to them." But like, there's something like this. There's almost something quite sweet about it.
I think so. I was just going to say the same thing.
It's just a carryover. It's not like not the whole game is that, and it's almost like a link to previous games. Like, it's it's almost like a motif or reference to themselves.
That's what I mean. I think
the door thing definitely is that.
Yeah,
it's like,
absolutely.
You know what? Probably redoing the door animation wouldn't take them that long, and they could. But it's like here's our shared DNA.
I think it's
a stylistic thing.
I think if you're a fan, it rubs you up the nice way where you're like, oh, that's really good. But if you're just someone who likes to moan about everything, then you'd be like, oh, it's the same fucking door animation. You're like, yeah, but there's something quite nice about it. Like,
guess what?
Comforting.
I open a door the same way every day.
Yeah,
it's the same. It's just the same thing. It's the same action.
Do you see it? You know everything you're saying now. If I play this back to you, when you find out the last boss is just Gwyn.
Imagine,
are you joking?
His name is backwards as well.
But he's just a tree.
Just
a tree walking around.
The thing is though, that's the thing. Is like there's very few things in these games that can be like genuinely comforting and very familiar. But things being familiar is comforting. So when you see someone like that, you're like, I'll take what I can get. Actually,
big old demon.
Yeah.
Well, that's good to know. We've been rubbed up the right way by
absolutely.
I want to know now if this
big
happens
fat
with
natural
other,
assets,
creatures or monsters in the game. Because maybe I can kind of keep an eye out for it now.
Yeah. You know what you should constantly. Well, that's that.
I know what that is. Yeah.
Thing is though, it could just be you just going, well, it's not that, mate. Escaping Dragon, obviously.
That's your ceaseless discharge right there.
You did hear
That's your ceaseless discharge coming at me. Well, is there anything,
very good, Michael.
Is there anything from
done.
Dark Souls you would like to see come back?
Oh yeah.
Great question. I'm trying to think.
One I should have prepped you for.
No. This is good. It keeps me on my toes.
Okay.
Keeps me on my toes. What was one of our favorite Dark Souls bosses to fight?
Well, one of the silliest things I think are definitely the big pig. The big armored pig.
The armored pig.
Like, we should just come back in Bloodborne.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, because we talked about that in one thing, didn't we?
Yeah. Who hasn't come back? The mushroom guys that just punch you.
Oh, the big mushroom lads.
I feel like this is a world where there could be mushrooms.
There could be those.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, you get really annoyed when we get a chest and it's a mushroom.
Yeah.
It's a joke.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't remember that.
A mushroom in a chest. You joking?
I assume there was some sort of narrative implication for that mushroom.
Well, yeah. The narrative implication is someone put a mushroom in a chest. The thing with these games is you've got to infer a lot. It's like where did you find it?
There's two things I think that are really big parts of our early Dark Souls careers. I feel like weirdly it's just changed the way that we approach these games. And sometimes it would do us well to know that right at the top, it's not gonna be a thing, mate, is fake walls.
Yeah, that helps us to know.
And mimics. Because I feel like now, I feel like anytime I'm in a chest, I feel like mimics of, I've barely played these games, but anytime I see a chest in any game, I'm like, this motherfucker's going to eat me. And I know, I guess,
this game got us.
Oh my God.
Transporter chest.
It's gas chest, yeah.
It's already now. So it's already looking at episodes and stuff like that. Like anytime you're approaching a chest, you're like, I don't fucking send me anywhere now.
Yeah.
It's funny actually, the second transporter chest we hit on is in this area.
Right, yeah.
It sends us to miles away.
Yeah.
And when we put on that, it was like we're in that golden city with the big lift
Oh my
shaft.
god, yeah, it's
Yes.
amazing.
And then we go through a door and there's a golem.
Yeah.
And we
I
just walk
remember
straight
that.
back, but it's the first time you open the map and you're like, this is miles away.
Where are we?
joking,
Yeah, in some
yeah.
golden city.
And it's
in the
kind of an
middle
interesting, like we talked about these previously, like those transport chests. They are like a preview of later content,
Yeah.
but in a way that is really fun because you're just like, what is this game?
Yeah.
Like,
They're just having
what
a
we-
great time being like, let's fucking throw them in the end. for a
Yeah.
second.
That one is quite kind because you can kind of walk back almost
back.
immediately.
Yeah.
Whereas the Caelid one is like a scary one.
Caleb
That
was
is a scary
terrifying. I
one,
did not
yeah.
like that.
That's really scary.
I wish there was some kind of transporter chest in real life. Like if you had like a 12-hour flight you had to do, you could just
Teleporters.
gas yourself and then you're knocked out.
Well, you
and someone
could
takes
gas yourself and you would wake up on the other side.
There's been so many times where I've woken up hungover from places. Like, to be fair, waking up after Scrubs' wedding, but thinking like, I wish I could transport home right now.
We did go to that wedding with someone who's like didn't want to do the drive back, so they got a train.
Yeah.
Which was essentially like a teleport.
Yeah,
chest.
Yeah.
that's true.
I need to be in my
Oh,
bed
no.
in 3 hours.
Yeah, please.
That's true.
But yeah,
That's
so we're
class.
saying if
Good.
this feature does come back,
Yeah.
we'll do a semi-regular feature on Roundtable Hold called
Yeah.
Lazy Miyazaki Watch.
Yeah.
Lazy or not lazy?
Not lazy.
That's not lazy. No,
Not lazy.
Not lazy.
Right.
I like it. It doesn't
Right.
bother
So
me.
we're in.
You're like, get ready for some lazy.
Lots of good stuff happening in Weeping Peninsula.
Yeah.
We saw our first statue of Radagon in the church.
Yes.
The world's
also-
greatest rat.
Okay.
Basil the Great Master.
And we also did Morne Castle.
Yeah.
Which is not a legacy dungeon, but it's almost like a mini dungeon.
Okay.
I think I pointed this out on the episode as well. You know, not to draw more parallels between the Weeping Peninsula and Northern Ireland, but the Morne Mountains, a famous location in Northern Ireland, home to the tallest mountain point in all of Northern Ireland, known as Sleeve Donard.
Whoa.
Are you prepping these episodes now?
Yeah.
There you go. a little
Big
fun
lore
fact for you.
dump. Big lore dump.
More to
Very
come
good.
next
Very
week.
good.
So what did you think of this kind? It's kind of a little bit more like Dark Soulsy. Obviously, people who are watching this will know that Stormvale Castle's coming, which is like a
Okay,
bigger
yeah.
version of this.
Yeah.
But this is like our first like little more considered area.
It was kind of comforting when you're spending that much time in this infinite world to be in a box again.
Yeah.
You know, I did quite enjoy that. You felt like you almost went into like just autopilot Dark Souls mode. Like, okay, we're going in the front door. We need to work our way up, go through the
Yeah.
rooms, find the little door that opens the entrance point, all that kind of stuff again. So there was something very familiar about it that was nice.
Yeah, I think we're getting into like the flow of this game now, where it's big area, but it even happens in Weeping Peninsula. You come across the catacombs, so there's like
Yeah.
big areas, but on points of the map, and you can actually, if you study the map very closely, you can see discernible little areas where you go, I think that probably is a cave.
Right.
And there's a mixture between caves and mines and catacombs. So if you want, you can go and do a little more focused area,
Yeah.
like all across the map. But this is like something. It's midway point between like the bigger dungeons we're going to get to and these like really smaller ones.
Yeah, because like it's interesting looking at this image now. It's like with the stones in it, because this does in my mind. It's like we spent a lot of time in more outside, like and like on some rocks and stuff like that.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? So
we
it's
kind of
like-
scaled down the back of the castle.
Yeah.
Quite a lot of this. And also, because we're very early in the game, and you know, like we've got obviously history of doing all these games. The initial areas of like Bloodborne and Dark Souls with Undead Berg, this is kind of like the kind of most vanilla stuff. I don't mean bad, like I mean like visually, it is castles.
Right,
Do
yeah.
you know like 1-1 of Demon Souls?
Yeah,
it's like
yeah,
Bolatarian Gates. Like that is very much similar to that to me.
Yeah.
Whereas we've not got to the weird and the wild stuff. Obviously, we've had
Yeah.
a preview of Caelid, but this is just like your nuts and bolts fancy. Is a big castle.
Yeah.
And I do think there is like a little bit of like George R.R. Martin kind of with this area, like the
Yeah.
Peninsula, like the Stormlands and all that
Yeah,
sort of
I
stuff.
can see that.
You
Yeah.
kind of need it though, because if everything's nuts, then
Nothing's nuts.
Nothing's nuts.
Yeah.
You need the
Exactly.
relief. You need to start like almost like easing people into this world with something quite familiar, which is like castles and lords before you get onto the fucking wild shit.
Insanity
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
But this is the boss of the area. Actually, this could have actually. I haven't prepped this. I just thought of this when looking at this tombstone.
Yeah.
That's another fucking reused asset.
Is that
This tombstone is reused in the Ring City DLC of Dark Souls 3.
What?
But in that DLC, it's like just a little tiny gravestone everywhere.
Okay, right.
And then it's just made it massive.
Made it massive.
Which I think
Lazy.
You said
You did
this was lazy.
That's lazy.
Lazy. We're
That's
calling
lazy.
it.
But
Okay,
if I
yeah.
hadn't said it, I love that bit.
Oh,
What a beautiful, thoughtful reference
Yeah.
to the grave of Artorias.
Exactly, very similar. Oh, and this is, Sif in another world.
Oh, imagine that.
A beast who did not take the death so kindly.
Bullshit.
Nah, lazy little fucker.
But this is the Leonine Misbegotten, who is the kind of the boss of this area. And do you remember, like, when we defeated him? We actually never said this on the show. I meant to. Just on the lines of George R.R. Martin. This is the weapon we get, the grafted blade greatsword. And I was thinking about this. I never said it on the episode. That must be a reference to the Iron Throne.
Yeah.
Well, of course, because it's George R.R. Martin.
Yeah, that
part of the.
That must be the art team going. Here's a little nudge, because it's a sword made from other swords.
Yeah.
I like it a lot. Yeah, because nothing like that has really appeared in games in the past. So yeah, I think if that's the case, that is a really cool little idea. They're like, we'll stick a few of the Game of Thrones shit in there.
I won't do it just yet, but like when we get onto it, there's another thing with There's another thing that people think is a real George R.R. Martin reference, and then some people just having none of it.
Right.
And we'll do that in about 3 episodes.
Okay,
time.
cool.
Okay.
But
That's
just keep
really
that in mind.
interesting though,
But
because
I think that's once we get way down the line, and maybe something when we finish this whole game.
Yeah.
It's actually asking you guys what you think the influence of George R.R. Martin is, because I think it's actually very hard to discern. I think it's very easy to attribute some stuff to him.
100%.
That
Yeah.
you go, oh, it's very George R.R. Martin, but then you can go, well, there are examples of that in Miyazaki's work.
Yeah.
But then also because they both like dabble in the world of fantasy, they're all just like common things.
It's also, to be fair, a lot of it will be us just going like, what did you do, George? What did you do on this game? Like, just let us know. For
like-
God's sake.
Have you seen that?
I do want to know.
Have you seen that picture of him like at Comic Cons just hanging out with like quite beautiful women in cosplay, like cosplay from his games, and people a lot on Reddit going, "These books are never getting fucking real," because he's just like there going.
Thing is, if I was a fan of his books now, I feel like I wouldn't be a fan of his books anymore. I'd be like, you're taking the fucking piss, mate. Like,
I don't know.
Get this book fucking done. Because
More
doesn't
power
it?
to you.
Isn't like there are people waiting around to find out how this ends. It's already ended in the TV show.
Do you not think like if you were him,
got
you know
it.
that show kept it finished and like people slagging it off?
Yeah.
I feel like I find that really demotivating.
Yeah,
I'd be
yeah.
like, oh, well, it's fine.
Or would you be a bit smart?
Or
about
you'd be
it?
like,
You'd oh,
here's the proper ending.
He's
Yeah.
like, oh, not so hard, not so easy, is it? Huh? Rounding off these books.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh no, you had a little go and they hated it.
You know, he's like distancing himself because I think he's kind of like critiqued the end of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
What if is actually he gave them his actual?
It's ending, yeah. That's
Right,
what's
now
So he's tested it, and then no one else you go,
sake.
I'll try Plan
To be
B.
fair, he's basically smashed it because now he's seen a version that everyone hates.
Yeah.
So he can be like, all right, well, what would everyone like?
It's
And
like,
he's like, I'll just do
it's
it.
Jake
Yeah.
Gyllenhaal in Source Code.
Yeah.
He keeps
Yeah.
writing it over and over until he does the one that people fucking like.
That's why he's always at Comic Cons all the time. Be like, right, instead of doing a Q&A, what we're actually going to do is more of everyone's going to tell me what they want
Yeah.
to see in the books.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's fucking sick. That is
Crowdsourcing. He's
really
crowdsourcing.
good.
Yeah,
That is
yeah.
really
Well,
good.
He's like, oh, that Jon Snow, isn't he a love him. We love him.
We-
Yeah, just maybe.
Technically,
Yeah.
but and what would Daenerys do?
Would it be good if John was king? Dead.
I'm just
That one, that-
and say Tyrion just had to do a speech that made people cry.
Yeah.
What would he say?
Yeah.
Like,
Well, no, but the
word for
actual
word.
words, though.
Word for word.
Like-
Actually, can you slow down? Down?
I can just record it. Say what you want. Say it. Yeah.
But it's the thing, like, if we ever, like, in the game, it's like, oh, if, like, incest comes along, you're like, oh, so you think of me when the incest comes on, do you?
Yeah.
Thing is,
you don't want to be.
You want to be,
known as the incest
you
guy.
definitely don't want to be known as the incest guy.
It's interesting though that like weirdly that we just talked about the reusing the assets thing and being like almost like this like idea of trust when it comes to a From game. Like there's I trust that they're doing it properly
Yes.
and that's fine. And the same with that's the thing is like a bad company is going like right we're gonna give George R.R. Martin $2 million just to stick his name on this and then it'll sell fucking loads. But actually they didn't need to do that. So there's
No,
got to be a trust
I-
there that they're using him for something really
That's a
good.
really
I
good
think
point.
I think the
Like-
Game of Thrones conversation and the ending in particular has really overshadowed like how well thought of George R.R. Martin is in the world of fantasy and writing.
Right, okay, yeah,
And I
yeah.
think Miyazaki actually being a genuine fan of that stuff wanted
Yeah.
to work with him.
Yeah.
I think his name has got stuck in the mud of like just Game
Yeah.
of Thrones in general.
And also, like, I'm not a massive fan of Kojima's stuff, but like, I feel like the way that he's used directors and writers and actors and stuff in, like, he's like, oh, I'm just gonna stick Nicholas Winding Refn in my game. Like, that's not the same thing. That's not the same
not-
thing. Is it?
no.
You're just doing it because you wanted to go on a
Yeah.
night out with him. Like,
And I genuinely think there's probably quite a good sentiment to Miyazaki using him as into like kind of like shake himself
Yeah.
up instead of like, I could just do this again, but actually putting something else into the mix.
Yeah.
So he's like challenges himself to like do something a bit different.
Yeah.
Or, like,
That's
give me
true,
some of your ideas so I have something else to work with.
Yeah.
There
Might
is
be
like
quite
a
nice.
So actually, we could table this now.
Yeah.
We can get back to it another time. But what people think, what the general consensus is because we know some of them. George R.R. Martin wrote kind of like a novella about the gods, the demigods.
Okay.
And he put together like, here's the story of the demigods, and then
Is that publicly available?
no. And I was like, I wonder one day whether they publish it.
Yeah.
Maybe
What if
like
it's in
an
a
art
publisher
book or something.
Publisher, but like he wrote like the story of the gods, America, and the shattering, and then it's like, and then he comes in, Miyazaki, and he then. I
Expands
think he gave him
on it,
some
yeah.
ideas beforehand. He was like,
Yeah, of course,
Don't
yeah,
just
yeah,
do
yeah.
anything you want. Here's the idea. You write the prehistory.
No incest.
And then
Yeah.
we'll come in and do the world building.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a cool idea.
Yeah,
So
that
we
is
can't
really
have
cool.
incest in the game.
Well,
Just
fuck, take it out
don't
then.
Take it out.
Why'd you hire me?
Man.
It's gonna take me more months then because that is half.
Did he write
the script.
Brookside?
Yeah, he's like, okay, you can't have incest in it. He's like, well, you know, might use that sword thing that you came up with all the other swords in it. That's what you paid me $2 million for.
Miyazaki's like, you can have regular sex. He's like, yeah.
Don't bother, take it all out.
Really gets me hard these days.
Take it all out. Take it all
Doesn't do
out.
anything for me.
It's like, I need that thick demon.
I'm either shagging an auntie or I don't want to shag anyone.
Miyazaki's like, shag an ant.
Shagging, yeah.
Yeah.
Giant ants.
But you're right though, the Kojima is the worst version of it.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit of a tangent. Do you see them making a Norman Reedus spin-off show for Walking Dead?
People love that guy.
What's he
don't
called?
they? Yeah.
Daryl.
Daryl. Yeah.
So the show is called Daryl.
Daryl the friendly racist.
And you know where he ends up? I saw a trailer for it.
Japan.
He's in France. I mean, it's almost like gone back to like. For a second, when I saw the trailer, I genuinely thought he time traveled
Is it?
because it looked like it was like medieval times because they've all gone back to like crossbow. Because he loves a crossbow. doesn't he? And they're all, and I think also, I think they're hiding out in like the old castles because like I guess it's probably not a bad place to hide.
Cool idea.
That actually sounds pretty fun. I'm not gonna lie.
But it's called. So sorry if anyone's called Daryl, but like a major HBO series.
Daryl.
Not AMC.
Is it just called Daryl?
I think it's called Daryl Dixon.
Daryl Dixon goes to France.
What's the Walking Dead in French? We can figure this out. The Perambulaire.
Yeah.
You're gonna be closer than I am. Let me tell you, Jesus.
To be, I always feel like I'm really down on Norman Reedus as an actor, but I don't know. Walking Dead did absolutely zilch for me.
I like
I like the first 3-4 seasons. I think it just went on.
I love
it
the
just went
books,
on.
the graphic novels. Sorry, not books, man. Like yeah, lovely novels they wrote.
You can call them novels.
Yeah, graphic novels. But yeah, no, I guess like that's the thing, isn't it? Like I do trust that if they're going to use George R.R. Martin, they're using him for really clever things.
Yeah, it's a shame there's not more detail out
what
of
it
it.
is,
But I
yeah.
think he did his work on it like years and years ago.
Right,
So I think there was
Right.
I think he did appear. Actually, we'll get this clip up for like a future episode. As he did appear on like a late night talk show in America. Maybe it's like Fallon or something.
Yeah.
Or and they asked Kimmel maybe. And they asked him about this new game, and he was very vague about the game, and
Yeah.
people took that as like, oh, he's not worked on it. He's not done it. He's like,
Yeah.
he's not coding on it.
Not allowed to do
And I
it,
think
yeah.
his work.
Yeah.
I think his
Yeah.
work was very much like, here's a starting point.
Yeah.
Oh, the best analogy I heard for it was like he almost wrote the manual, the D&D manual,
Right.
and then Miyazaki's gone off and been Dungeon
Yeah.
Master,
Yeah.
and fleshed it out. Here are the rules.
Yeah.
Here's some core ideas or characters.
It must be hard to be involved in that sense because if you're doing interviews and people are like, what they're
do
going
you
to
do?
ask is like, oh, is the game fun? Have you played it? It's like, no, I don't even really play games.
Yeah.
I just did all the story stuff.
I think
It
that
must be hard to talk about.
I think it must be really hard to talk about because we don't make video games. So what he's done is probably like it doesn't make any sense because like we're like, he wrote this storyline or he wrote this storyline. It's like, no, what I actually did was a lot of like pre-production stuff that you don't really understand what it is, and that's the reason that's the reason they've been vague about what he's done on it, is because it'd be like, well, you wouldn't really understand or get it. So it's like.
Yeah.
Like, well, where does like, oh, he wrote this character.
If Kimmel's not asking an in-depth question
No,
about
exactly.
America,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
imagine. Oh, I love.
Yeah.
Kimmel.
What's your build? What's your build, Margitt?
George.
Yeah.
What do you think about poise in the game?
Yeah.
How they configuring poise?
Did you know that Michael actually reused some of the assets? If you actually notice the giant wooden beast.
I've actually got a little video here. Oh, Jimmy, you've lost it.
Jimmy, you little perv. That's why I go on Fallon. That's why I go on Fallon because he laughs at all my jokes. Yeah, so Weeping Peninsula.
Love it.
I think it's a lovely little break.
Great
I had a good
peninsula.
time.
I think there was actually like more stuff that we never even explored. Do you remember the? I don't think you even know the name for them. But you know, like the big walking turtle thing. We couldn't figure out how to get on it.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Like the Colossus
Like
thing.
we've
Yeah.
never even done
We
one.
didn't. It was so big. I didn't even have time to think about it. I was like, keep your eyes on the ground.
Yeah.
And just keep going.
I think
was like,
even in the episode, you were just like, I don't have time to even comprehend this.
There were lots of weird stuff down there. This is the thing. We're going to progress further, but because we've also got the ability to have like the Lord vessel,
Yeah.
we can get back to these places very quickly.
Yeah, that's
so if
true.
there's ever like in future episodes like, oh, let me like just
go
nip
look
back
at
and check
that.
that. It's very easy to do.
Yeah.
And for other weird things I'll just rattle off that we saw in the Weeping Peninsula.
Yeah.
So Selin,
Yeah.
chained up underground and
the
unresponsive.
That is
Yeah.
basically my main story.
Yeah.
Right
Selling.
now is
Selling.
selling. I know
Yeah,
we're doing
yeah,
some
yeah.
other stuff, but it's mostly selling.
It's good.
I'm genuinely.
Watch it.
It's good,
Selling.
isn't it?
I'm
Yeah.
quite worried about her and want to.
Was because when we went back, we
Didn't
saw
mention
it
it.
chained up. She didn't mention
She
it.
was still in the other area.
Yeah.
But what can we infer from that? Time, different time things, like there's time rifts. We seeing her back in a different time.
But then there's also weird stuff about her origin because remember she was kicked out of the wizard school.
Yeah.
for doing
Hogwarts.
sneaky stuff. So maybe she's a evil person.
We don't know.
We don't know.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, we always say, evil, very relative concept.
Yeah, that's true.
This is the thing with these games, is like there's no like omniscient, neutral voice.
Yeah.
Every voice, that's the thing about all these lore descriptions. They're written by someone who probably has a side.
Yeah.
And they're like interpreting it through a certain lens. You
Yeah,
don't really
yeah.
have like we've got to stitch it together ourselves.
Yeah.
And even then
No,
we
that's
might go, no, they're okay, but they did some shitty things.
Yeah.
That's why they're so fucking good. Do you remember like we went down the cliff and we found like these like weird lads with purple gravity magic that were like pulling us into graves?
Oh yeah.
Lots
Yes.
of
Yeah.
weird stuff happening
I
in
do
this
remember
area.
that.
Yeah.
Like-
yeah.
You saw very
So
briefly.
much going on.
Yeah.
Gollum with a big bow and arrow.
Yeah.
Honestly, there's so much stuff in the Weeping Peninsula we also didn't even see.
Oh my god.
But it's one of those things where I don't want to go, oh, let's go here, da.
Yeah.
What I think is, like, in future, like, people watching this might go, oh, I wish he'd done this bit.
Yeah.
But there might be areas, like, in future episodes that might go, actually, you know what? Because we've just seen this, it might be sense to just, like, take a little
Nip
quick...
back,
nip
yeah.
Because we've got the ability to warp.
Absolutely.
We can,
yeah.
like, hard cut, and we're
Yeah.
already in that area.
Absolutely,
And we can, like,
yeah.
have a little explore.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because what I've even started doing in like the edit as well, because like there's so many times where we talk about going to a different place. So what I've started doing is, because you have to physically go to it, what I've been doing, I've been a bit a little cheeky on the edits. What I've been doing is when you've
been keeping an eye on this.
when you start talking about, so we're obviously sitting talking about where to go, and then you go, okay, we're going to go to this place, and then you go into the menu and you bring up the map and you do it. So what I've started doing is bringing that map over the chat. So if groups is like, oh,
elegant.
hey, we could be going to this place, so then the map is already up.
And that's the power of editing you don't
Yeah.
see.
You know what that
You know what that is? Just because we were talking about it the other week was Forrest Gump.
Yeah.
Forrest Gump. That's like when you watch the making of Forrest Gump and you go, I didn't even know that was special effects.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah. It's special effects you don't even see. That's
Yeah.
editing you're not even seeing.
Because and then basically then it cuts from us going, oh, hey, we should go to this place. And then the next cut is us in the place.
And that's what you're paying for.
There you go.
Exactly.
So Weeping Peninsula, at the end of this, we were like, oh, let's go, because we leveled up a bit. We're not over leveled.
No.
We don't have a very well leveled up weapon. We were like, let's go back and let's take on Margitt.
Yeah.
And I fully expected us to have one difficult try.
Yeah.
You fucking only went and did it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a weird one because I think I'm not quite at a point in the game yet where I understand the relationships between like me and these bosses.
Yeah.
So I think whenever we did it first try, I was like, oh, this is a joke boss.
Yeah.
Right? It's
Yeah.
You're going to...
I think...
Well, even in the episode, because he's carrying on talking, and I say, if we've just killed him, why is he still talking? And Daniel's like, that's a really good question.
It's a great question. Because
Like-
usually when people are dead don't talk.
Yeah.
Unless
Dead men
you
don't tell
told-
lies. That's what I've always been told.
You felled the Fell Omen.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Well, you like second time, but like pretty good.
Yeah.
Because I think most people find him quite challenging because for a first boss, like compare it to other initial bosses, he's got a lot going on. He's
Yeah.
got a lot of range. He's got, if you
Changes
put
up,
distance, he
yeah.
does projectiles.
Yeah.
He's got magic. He's got a lot going on. He's quite relentless. So I think a lot of people find him quite challenging.
I will say, it wasn't just me in that fight. It was my beautiful jellyfish as well.
Yeah.
Working together as a team. we both pulled that one off. So I want to share that glory and that victory.
Yeah.
People have been. This is an interesting question, and we could have this conversation right here.
I like it. Yeah, I think.
I think it's like an internal thing we need to figure out.
Yeah.
Is difficulty and spirit summons.
Yeah.
And like I've got thoughts on this, as in like we should use spirit summons.
Yeah.
But I think maybe we do need to come up with a rule on when and where.
Yeah.
I think as we progress the game, it'll become less of an issue.
Yeah.
Because we might not upgrade them because we're not meticulously combing catacombs for upgrades and rules.
Yeah.
But there are legendary ones that I want us to collect because they are
They
interesting.
have lots of lore on them as well.
So maybe we say we only use them out in the world.
Yeah, I think we can do that. I think we can say like that we're not using them for bosses. We're only using them for
when we really want
shits and gigs.
Yeah,
Shits and gigs and have a look at them.
Yeah.
and then sometimes when it's really hard. Sometimes, yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's only been a couple of times where you've generally found this like really torturously hard, I think. And
So far, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm aware of how early on we are.
And I think that's the thing. I think some people constructive criticism, complaining.
Yeah.
We're saying in comments like, "Oh, this isn't hard." But my point is, if everything's hard, like it's like similar construction to you said earlier. If everything's hard, nothing's hard. Because if like a jabroni is a full episode, when we get to the really hard stuff, it won't feel as like a struggle as much of a struggle. If that's also one episode,
Yeah.
I like.
and the game gets really hard later.
I like us. We've always done
There'll be plenty of boss episodes. Don't
we've always done really fun rules and stuff like that to ourselves, and I do like as a rule not bringing in the spirit summons into a boss. I think is because
there'll be a day in a year's time
Yeah.
when you rue that to.
and do you know what? The only reason I'll say it,
And I'm the one that has to deal with it.
I'm not just saying it because of like people in the comments or anything like that want it to be hard. I'm more saying it because the most satisfying to watch you in boss fights is when you're learning stuff and when you've had a couple of goes at them and you're in it. Like going back over this episode in the edit, like you're nuts and it's just like
Some people said that in the comments on the Weeping Peninsula episode, going, "What is going on in this one?"
like you're because you chucked it in, and it's almost like it's less of a boss fight and it's more of like just bonkers. It's just like boss bonkers
Because I have so many things I can do now. Usually it's I get in and I just whack them and try not to get hurt. Whereas now I'm like jellyfish, spell, sword. It's like there's so much stuff to do. But then after that period of insanity, it does strip back to
we're getting to a point where the game is ratcheting up. And because we're spreading our points quite widely. And we're not really
wildly.
Every episode we decide we want to do something else.
I'm all for it, to be fair. It's very some people in the comments are going mad, going, "So is this a strength, intelligent, dex, faith build?" I've never seen the like of it.
I replied to one actually where it was like, there was a comment that was like, "So is there strength?" And I was like, "You tell me."
It's the Freddie Flintoff build. It's just a bit of everything.
And that was the only thing when I was back in it, I was like, oh, I just kind of wanted to see, because I feel like he's a really interesting boss as well.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of interesting stuff going on. Yeah. Whereas like, how much of that did you get to see or anything? Do you know what I mean? Whereas if you got to fight him 20 times, you're seeing a little bit more of it maybe.
Well, I think a lot of people would say, actually, this is a nice picture of both of them. Little selfie with them all. She does have clothes on, by the way.
Yeah, that looks like
what mods are you running, Daniel? Jesus.
I've spent hours in there.
That's like a photo that I would get from.
Excuse me?
Like, that's like a photo that I would get from a girl on Tinder after like the second date, where you're just like, oh, I don't know if it's quite a nude, but
do you want to go on a date with me and my husband?
Yeah. I'm in the sidecar.
He just watches.
He's an omen. Is that okay with you? But yeah, I think a lot of people would agree. Maybe this point or Stormville after it is like the beginning of the game proper.
Okay.
Which is kind of wild when you think about how many hours we've already put in at this point. But a lot of people would say that's when the game properly kicks off.
Okay,
that's
cool.
Crazy.
And that's where we're going to find more of a challenge. And also the fact that we're not upgrading our weapons and stuff is going to even add to that curve.
True. Very, very true.
But yeah, just a couple of quick questions to finish this episode. And people can email in anytime, roundtable@rkgvideo.com. This is from Harry Ridgard. And I guess this question from a few weeks back, but I think it's worth just like having this conversation here as well. It's like, my question is, are you going to allow Rory to use magic on this playthrough? Now, we've already used magic. I guess what Harry's getting at is like, is that the full build?
Right, yeah.
And I think like, it'd be such a shame never to use any of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the way that we're dispersing our points,
Yeah.
we're going to lock off like quite high level magic,
Okay, cool.
which is like the really strong stuff.
Right, yeah. Which is the stuff
Why is that cool? Why
Is that
was
the stuff
your
that people
response?
would argue is like OP
Easy.
magic?
Yeah,
or-
to be honest, I don't think magic is. I think people say magic is OP because you can do it from a distance.
Yeah.
But then there's lots of situations where that won't be advantageous.
Right.
And because we're not putting all our points into intelligence, the really like spells that would help you melt bosses are going to be locked off.
Right, okay, yeah.
So we are going to be in a little bit of a conundrum about our build, probably like in a couple of months' time.
Really soon.
Because we're going so wide, like certain,
Yeah.
like the next like range of gear
Yeah.
Yeah.
will be locked off from us. So we'll have all like the starting gear.
Yeah.
But it's like,
Jesus.
I want to use that.
As an analogy, it's not quite as bad, hopefully. It's not the same kind of like locked offness as like we've used too much ammo in a resi run and now we have to go back to a
There's
previous
always way.
save.
I mean, if nothing else, we
Like-
do an episode where you just grinded.
yeah,
Can
okay,
you
yeah,
respec
Like-
it all, or is it kind of?
Yeah, there is an ability to do something like that at some
Okay.
point. I don't think that's a spoiler. That's
Yeah.
for,
Yeah, that's
I
just
think.
game.
I think that's.
Also, you
also-
don't need to know about
I think that's also. I mean, that's in Dark Souls 3, and I
yeah.
think that's a necessity of like because it's such a big game.
Yeah.
You don't want to like channel people.
Yeah.
And they're like,
You want
"Oh, I have
people to try
redo the
different
whole thing."
things as well,
Exactly,
like-
and I actually do think there'll be times in this entire playthrough where we do hit a bit. I think a lot of people do this when they play this
Yeah.
game. They hit a bit of a wall and they're like, I just want to try something completely different.
Yeah,
or
yeah,
even just
yeah.
or
Mix
like
it
say
up.
you've got
Just for a laugh.
Say you've got a play file that is the
Yeah.
whole game's unlocked. You're like, I've never actually used this stuff.
Yeah.
Dude, if you just find that dragon head or whatever it is,
stick
you're like,
this
I
on.
want to do that. I just want to see what that is.
The Dragon Head.
Yeah, that's the
Call
thing.
them
Also,
in,
like
right.
to be fair, like I'm not worried about it at all because I think all of the best things about because I watch these. I have to watch these like as an interested party as well as people at home as well. And I feel like the best thing about it is how you approach playing these games and
Absolutely.
because it's such a unique way of doing it that I feel like if someone was just like, this is the build I want and this is how I want you to do it and this is how I want it, and it's just like, well, you've done that, mate. Like you've done that in your own playthrough, and if you wanted to see that, you could go. I'd be like, I want to see him do it like this. It's like I want to see you play it like Rory Powers. Like I don't want to see it play it like God, Dark Souls 2
I feel
guy.
like, I feel like anytime it's a chance for us to level up, we have about 20 seconds to decide what we're putting it into before I get bored.
Yeah.
And put it
Oh,
in
the window is
something so
20
the
seconds. 20 seconds is
conversation-
generous, mate.
Yeah.
But the problem is I don't want any of those decisions to have consequences. And it
that's
sounds like they will. down the
I
line.
think it's just because it's a factor of the open world. We just keep getting distracted by new shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we keep,
great.
we keep picking up cool stuff like a turtle
Yeah,
shell.
you
and
do.
I wanna
You
use
forgot
this,
about
or
turtle shell.
Yeah,
the sword, I
yeah.
want to use this, or like there's just so much stuff. and I'm like,
yeah.
yeah.
Just one other
excited.
quick question from Phil Wall. We only haven't talked about this episode, but we did this just before the Weeping Peninsula, and people were very impressed by this. By the way, you took on the Tree Sentinel.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
Which
yeah,
is
yeah.
kind of a bit of a joke the game plays
Yeah.
on you by putting that right out of the gate. Phil says, just a quick question for Powers. What was your first thought when you walked out into the lands between and saw the great fuck-off guy on a horse? That guy killed me 200 times, and I now hate the colour gold because of him. Also, another nice little thing. I've also got a non-verbal autistic son called Jake, and whenever he hears Gather's voice, he smiles. Must be the Welsh accent. That is a good endorsement of the Welsh accent.
What's
And
his
also,
name? Jake.
His son is Jake.
Jake, hey man, how you doing? Thank you for
And
watching.
Also, plenty of Welsh voices in this game
it's
as well.
great, man.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's gonna love it.
Yeah, what did you think?
I think I've had that kind of trick pulled on me a few times playing those games. You know, like it's like when you go into the catacombs with the skeletons at the start, and
Yeah,
you're like,
yeah.
you get humbled really fast.
So it's
Yeah.
like, and I think it is like a learning age. Like you don't have to do in this game. You
Yeah.
can go off any direction.
Yeah, but even when we were fighting him, I felt like I had died a ton of times trying to beat him, but 200 times. We didn't rack up 200
I
deaths.
genuinely,
Nah,
I genuinely
we
think
didn't.
people were very impressed that you did do them.
Which I felt like I was slacking
and especially
on.
also you did a Gil in the same episode.
Yeah.
People were really impressed with that because I think a lot of people come back to those bosses when they've done a lot of the game and they're
Yeah.
like really strong to like feel quite good about themselves.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I feel like that episode is an interesting episode because it's so funny, because the episode starts with us like, hey, let's take on this dragon, and then we get sidetracked. I think trying to level something up or trying to get enough runes to buy something in particular, and then the way that we were like, oh, how should we do it? What can we buy? Like, what's the best way of leveling up? And then you just go, oh, well, he's probably got loads of runes in him, haven't you? And you're like, that's the hardest thing in the game. And you're like, yeah, so to be able to defeat something that isn't as hard, we're going to go after the thing that's way harder. And we need I think we need like 800 runes, something like that.
It wasn't that much.
And you're like, we'll definitely get it.
We've got such a broken economy when it comes to like
it's
money
great.
in this game. You're like, yeah, we do.
That's what I mean. Like, it's perfect then, because then like that is weird, because I think like we were texting about it like in post-production, and I was like, I think this could be its own episode, because
just a menu.
Because it's like we fight dragon for a bit, and then we go, oh, let's go off and do it. And then I was just showing you the timeline. I was like, then that's all the deaths for Tree Sentinel, and then this when we get back to the dragon.
I know people say like, we're doing that's a boss episode 5.
Mad. It's a very funny episode. Yeah.
Actually, that we are behind schedule. We should probably get back to it.
Yeah, let's do it.
You now belong to a select group of fellows. As such, I ask that you remain constant